An issue that was made public earlier this week regarding a group text message exchange that included several members of President Trump's national security leadership team and a journalist. Our colleagues on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence held their hearing on the annual threat assessment, and unfortunately, instead of exploring the real and existential threats that face our nation, this issue consumed most of their time. It's my sincere hope that we use this hearing to discuss the many foreign threats facing our nation. I have deep concerns about the state of our national security.
And that's House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford kicking off yesterday's hearing on worldwide threats facing America, urging Democrats to focus on the actual threats our nation faces, including China, Russia, Iran. But Democrats seemingly more interested in scoring political points, pressing the nation's top intelligence officials on why a left-wing journalist was accidentally added to a high-level Signal group chat. Watch.
Secretary Hegseth has disclosed military plans as well as classified information. He needs to resign immediately.
Everyone here knows that the Russians or the Chinese could have gotten all of that information, and they could have passed it on to the Houthis. I think that it's by the awesome grace of God that we are not mourning dead pilots right now.
Do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no.
You accept responsibility when things go wrong. You admit mistakes. You set the standard from the very top.
The idea that this information, if it was presented to our committee, would not be classified, y'all know is a lie. That's ridiculous.
Joining me now in a First on Fox Business interview, Arkansas Congressman and House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford. Mr. Chairman, thanks so much for being here. What is your takeaway from that hearing yesterday?
Well, I thought it was they squandered a valuable opportunity to learn more about the threats that face our nation, instead focusing on something that probably would have been, it had already been resolved, asked, and answered. As I say resolved, look, there's going to continue to be inquiry into this by the National Security Council. They've already acknowledged they're going to audit the phones. All the principals involved in that thread said that they were open to cooperating with an audit. So let's move on to the more pressing business at hand, but they chose to go a different direction.
Well, I mean, look, Michael Waltz has apologized, said that this was a mistake, and is trying to move on. What more do you need to do to move on? We just heard that there wasn't a negative impact, no names were given, no targets were given, and yet the Democrats are hanging on to this mistake. And they're asking for resignations.
Right. They're looking for something to help. They've been on a pretty steady losing streak for the past few months, and they're looking for some grasp of hope. So I can understand that in that context. But the reality is Mike Waltz did step up and say, this is on me. That's what leaders do. They talked about, well, when you make a mistake, you should own it. Well, that's what he did. He acknowledged that he started the group thread and took responsibility for that. Now let's break. Let's talk about the phenomenal success of that operation that yielded results that are geared toward securing American interests without any loss of life. It was a great success, and nobody wants to talk about that. They want to focus on this particular issue.
Right. Well, look, there were other topics discussed, right? The Signal chat controversy wasn't the only one. You had CIA Director John Ratcliffe, FBI Director Kash Patel, and DNI Tulsi Gabbard all warning about the China threat. Watch.
The PRC throughout Central and South America continues to attempt to use its soft power to gain a foothold. They use direct aid to countries that need it. They also provide funding to universities to get a foothold to create influence.
The Chinese, the Russians, Iranians, and other adversaries are utilizing their partners, just like they are doing in terms of how they move illicit fentanyl precursors into this country. They're moving humans in the same fashion.
Did you see an increase from the first Trump administration to the Biden administration on Russian and Chinese nationals crossing the border? Did it increase or decrease?
Yes, actually, so the PRC nationals crossing the southern border from 22 to 25 was 178,000. Having CCP actors purchasing large swaths of land next to military installations is a national security issue, a major one. And I would highlight to the American public, we're not allowed to buy farmland in mainland China or in Russia.
China's cyber activities have been linked to multiple high-profile breaches, including last year's massive compromise of U.S. telecom infrastructure, commonly referred to as Salt Typhoon.
That number, Mr. Chairman, that we just heard in terms of Chinese nationals crossing the border is much higher than anyone expected. We heard from Kash Patel, 178,000 in the last couple of years. Are they directed to come here? You can't just pick up and move out of communist China, right?
Right. I mean, you have to ask that question. It's a legitimate line of questioning. One of the things I want to point to is every single thing that they mentioned in this hearing as threats to the United States, whether that's immigration, our southern border, whether it's fentanyl, whether it is cyber, whether it is, irregular migration, whatever topic you want to bring up, the common denominator among all those topics is China. And that was echoed throughout the hearing from those principals on that panel.
So what do you think ought to be done about that?
Well, I think that we should be paying closer attention and really redoubling our efforts, particularly here at home. Look, the idea that somehow we are insulated from attack from an adversary like China simply because we have these great oceans that separate us is just false. We live in a 21st century economy that is not bound by any particular geography. We're an interconnected world, and cyber attacks and the ability for people to move, as you mentioned, are there immigrants being directed to arrive at our southern border? Well, Beijing operates a direct service to Tijuana, so why would you have the need to have direct flights from Beijing to Tijuana if not for some other illicit purpose? I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I mean, these are things that you can probably just take at face value.
So what do you think they're here for? What are they going to do, these Chinese nationals? Because you're right, we've already seen COVID thrown at us, right? A massive, deadly pandemic. We've seen fentanyl coming at us, not to mention the other massive bad behaviors from communist China, including intellectual property theft, surveillance, and propaganda. So what are these Chinese nationals told to do, in your view? Why are they here?
Well, for one thing, you take the academic world. I mean, we see that academia is full of Chinese researchers. And what are they doing? Well, they're stealing proprietary information, research that they can share back home. One thing that China is very good at is they're very opportunistic. Now, this has been going on for years and years. The thing about that is that the stated goal of the Chinese Communist Party has been for quite some time to supplant the American economy as the preeminent economy on the globe.
Yeah.
And they are ramping that up under Xi at a breakneck pace.
Yeah, and it sounds like they'll do anything to do that, whatever tactic they need to. Congressman, it's great to have you this morning. Please come back soon. Thank you. Rick
Yes, ma'am.
Crawford joining us.